and do not reflect the opinions of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its shareholder, or its affiliates. The opinions of the on-air guests or participants are based upon information they consider reliable, but neither ZBC nor its shareholder nor its affiliates warrant their completeness or accuracy, and they should not be relied upon as such. The views and opinions expressed by the host or presenter and by participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its shareholder, or its affiliates. The opinions of the on-air guests or participants are based upon information they consider reliable, but neither ZBC nor its shareholder nor its affiliates warrant their completeness or accuracy, and they should not be relied upon as such.
Whatever my mind can see, that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, to my brethren kind and good. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. My mind can see that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, to my brethren kind and good. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, to reach the top somehow. I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. I'll keep moving on. Whatever my mind can see, that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, to my brethren kind and good. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. achieve. Because I do the things I should. To my brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. So whatever my mind can see, that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should. Between my brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on to reach the top somehow. I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep.
Oh yes, my Straight Talk family. When you're wondering and pondering, I had a little technical glitch on my end. No fault of nobody but me. And thanks to my dear brother John, who sorted me out. And now I'm ready to go, and it is time to say good night to my entire Straight Talk family in St. Kitts.
The views and opinions expressed
Caribbean region. To my Straight Talk family in the Kittitian and Namibian diaspora, I say greetings to all who are logged on to the World Wide Web. If you got me on Facebook, on YouTube, just go to my page, tell your friends, tell your neighbor, just share the link, and you'll hear me say good night to those of you in North America. I can say good morning and or good afternoon, because one of such greetings will be applicable, since we have listeners all around the world, in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. So I'm at liberty to convey such greetings, my Straight Dog family. I won't tarry too long since I started too late, so I wanted to just get into the COVID-19 situation update. And report number 690, I always feel good when I see confirmed cases, believe it or not, nil, zero. That's a very good sign, but things are on the mend. Unfortunately, though, we've had some 42 deaths too many. But that's part of it all. That's part of life. No wonder, because death is a process, as we say. But, my Straight Dog family, the vaccination rate, the roll up and roll out, is on the up as well. And the first doses are now just about 83%, and 77% second doses. And that's a good sign, because it's one way of protecting you from hospitalization and certainly from going to the Springfield Cemetery. So we still, even at this time, strongly encourage the vaccinations my Straight Talk family. And for those of you who have joined me for the first time, Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free expression on all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, we do have a forum to express yourselves freely. Let us, however, in the process, I should say, continue to keep St. Kitts and Nevis as one of the freest countries in the entire world. On this program, we tried to raise the level of national consciousness. We tried to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights and, of course, to their responsibilities. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you in conversation, my Straight Talk family, on yet another occasion. And again, if you're joining me for the first time, we normally have what we call our observations in review. It's the way we now structure our program. So at this juncture, as I said, we make our observations in review, and we do so, or we do some reflection on the past, I should say, where we try to establish what was accomplished, how has it helped others, what has changed since our last program, and what can be expected next, and what new have we learned as a people. Our first observation in review highlights the confrontation between a member of parliament and the police that has yet again taken another twist. Because in an interview with WinFM's Devon Cornelius, Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy provided his latest information to the Federation, and Brandy had this to say.
I did not submit no file for an opinion from the DPP. The last sentence in my report to the DPP, I submit this file for your prudent action. When I say the Director of Public Prosecution is the competent authority, I was referring for prosecution. The file was completed with necessary charges in that file, and it was submitted to the DPP. The DPP must just say, yes, I agree, and put the matter before the court. And the file is still with the DPP. This is a minister of government, and the matter must be submitted to the DPP. I cannot take a file that involves the minister of government and go and give a sergeant or a corporal. I give it to the DPP. The DPP is in charge of prosecution, criminal prosecution. The Constitution gives him that right. He's the competent authority and prosecuting criminal matters.
Well, what does the Constitution say? In Section 65 of the St. Kitts and Nevis Constitution refers to the control of public prosecutions. And in Section 65, subsection 2, it reads, the Director of Public Prosecutions shall have power in any case in which he considers it desirable so to do. Subsection 2A, important, listen up. To institute and undertake criminal proceedings against any person before any court of law other than in a court martial. Court martial deals with the army. In respect of any offense under a law alleged to have been committed by that person. But interestingly, if we move to subsection 3 of section 65, it reads, the power of the Director of Public Prosecutions under subsection 2, which I just read, may be exercised by him in person or through other persons acting under and in accordance with his general or special instructions. So the question that has derived is this: has the Director of Public Prosecutions sent back the file to the Commissioner of Police, and in keeping with his constitutional authority, has he given any instructions to the Commissioner of Police, whether general, special, or other instructions? That, I believe, is a pertinent question that is being asked by all and sundry. But that's observation in review number 1. The other observation on review relates to the former Minister, Gerald Anthony Dwyer Astafan, some call a political Satan, who believes that he can judge every sin. And by the way, I borrowed those lines from former St. Kitts Nevis boxing champion, the Fighting Hunks. Those are not my words. Remember Hunk said this:
be a Satan and judging sin. Satan can't judge sin. The only thing Satan going to judge you is bring you down by him. So that's all. Satan will try to bring you down by him.
So this political Satan Astafan, according to Hunks, cannot judge sin. Remember as well that Dwyer Astafan was ridiculed by Prime Minister Gaston Brown and referred to as a political prostitute, a fossilized relic. What's a fossilized relic? A cadaver. Seems like a decayed body or corpse. And he was warned not to carry or to, according to Prime Minister Brown, not to bring his stinking poop to Antigua and Barbuda.
And Dwyer, I also want to put you on notice too, that if you continue to attack me and my family, then you become fair game. Because you know me, I'm going to fire back. So if you want to be involved in constructive criticism, then don't personalize your opinions. And I want to say to you, Dwyer, as a lawyer and a former minister of government, I expect that when you go an observer to chat, come with facts. But you see, Dwyer has this kind of propensity to, he did the same thing to Denzel Douglas when he was in Denzel's government, called Denzel corrupt and so on. Then he went, he joined Tim Harris in St. Kitts. They defeated Denzel. Then he turned on Tim Harris, Prime Minister Timothy Harris. Dr. Harris had to literally make him into what I consider a political relic. But the same Dwyer Astafan, went back and then started to support the same Denzel Douglas who he said was corrupt. What do you call that? Political prostitution?
Indeed.
So here's this, maybe what you can consider now a fossilized relic, coming to our country to stir poop on Observer Radio. Do I keep your poop in St. Kitts, man? Sure.
All right.
Yes. Dwyer was asked, according to Prime Minister Brown, to keep his poop in St. Kitts. Yes, he took his stinking poop to Antigua and Barbuda. But lo and behold, according to Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards, Dwyer Astafan now apparently took his garbage from his home in Friggy Bay and was seen dumping this garbage in the UDC bin. Do you believe that or not?
I want to say to Dwyer Astafan,
that when we come and we make statements about what is right, what is fair, what is just about persons being honest, tell him that in a similar vein, he ought not to take his garbage from home and dump it in the bins at Port Zante, as he was caught doing within very recent times.
He carries poop to Antigua. He takes his garbage from home in Frigate Bay to the UDC bin at Port Zante. If you see Dwight Astafan in church, the Catholic Church, and he collects the offering as well, when you see him, he pretends as though he is holier than the Pope. But Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards also reminded us, I should say, of his impropriety as well.
Tell Dwyer Astafan that I, Sean Richards, was never taken before any court to answer any questions relative to any will for anyone. And there is no judge who would have given a judgment in respect of any such matter that I had before the court, and which stated in the final analysis, Mr. Astafan became the sole executor and beneficiary in her estate in circumstances which are more than merely suspicious. And I can go on to other parts of this particular judgment. I find the actions of Mr. Astafan in this case to be particularly troubling. His intentions seem certainly contrary to Ms. Saheli's best interest. And again, there are a number of other pronouncements that the judge would have given in this particular matter that I can speak to. So if it is that Dwyer Astafan wants to have a conversation about what I knew from what I did not know, then tell him, let us also have a discussion about this particular case.
I don't know if there's a need for a conversation with Dwyer Astafan. But more importantly, he committed this act of impropriety in 2006 when he was a minister of government. He retained an attorney to draw a new will. Then he accompanied Miss Saheli to the signing of the 26th of October 2006 will, of which he became the sole beneficiary, unknowing to his other family. He refused to allow some of his family to visit Miss Saheli and used, according to the court document, undue influence on poor Granny, who after a vehicle accident succumbed to pre-dementia traumatic brain injury and was unduly influenced by Dwyer Astafan. How could we forget as well the 400 acres of government land that were vested in the La Valley Corporation? We remember, I'm sure, that 3/4 mile long green fence costing $4 million that was constructed. And we must remember the over $200 million debt, $100 million debt, I should say, that was accumulated at La Valley. Recall as well that multi-million-dollar contract that was signed by Gerald Anthony Dwyer Astafan as the minister responsible for the Frigate Bay Development Corporation. And to date, he has failed to account for the $54 million or more that has been puffed away by the Atlantic winds, perhaps. And all Dwyer Astafan can say to date is this. All Dwyer Astafan can say is this.
Apparently, he wants me to explain to the nation why I, as a minister, signed an agreement. Well, it seems as though he wants me to explain why I signed. I'm told that he said he's not accusing anybody of bubble, but that he was just asking, where's the money? That's what I'm told, right? And I don't remember. But let me say what I have to say. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Don't remember. Not saying it didn't happen. But straight up, we will nevertheless continue to insist that Gerald Anthony Dwyer Astafan give a full account for the taxpayers' money amounting to millions of dollars. We, the taxpayers, need to know where that money gone. The final observation in review for tonight is a match that was held on Thursday gone. But suffice to say, information reaching Straight Talk indicate that the numbers were not massive. The numbers were not massive.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to what has been and continues to be a successful event. The numbers are not massive.
Successful event, and the numbers were not massive. That's the only report we have on that match. But those are the observations under review at this time. But moving quickly, because time has fleeted, the substantive matter that I wish to raise for discussion tonight is what I label as the next Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I do so with no intention whatsoever, absolutely no intention of rattling any feathers, but merely to entertain an exchange of views. And that is what democracy is all about. Democracy is about the strong exchange of views. So the idea of entertaining this discussion tonight came to mind when I heard this question and particular response, which I found to be rather interesting. Having heard the question and the response, I found it rather interesting, and I thought we would discuss that substantive matter tonight. Here's the question.
Sean, let me ask you two questions. Did you sign any agreement for 2013 to be the leader of this country with Tim, the Prime Minister?
If I signed an agreement in 2013...
Have you guys signed an agreement? When you formed the team, did you guys sign an agreement that within 3 years, 5 years, who's going to be the leader?
We didn't sign an agreement as to who is going to be the leader. What we spoke to is 2 terms maximum for anyone to be Prime Minister.
So that was the agreement among you guys?
That is what we agreed to. As a matter of fact, we went to legislation during our first term to actually put that legislation into effect.
Okay.
Well, Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards reminded us that we went to Parliament. To use his words, we went to legislation. But I say we, because I was present then, 2 years ago, on the 29th of November 2019, to be exact, when Prime Minister Harris tabled that piece of legislation entitled The Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, Tenure of Office of the Prime Minister Amendment Bill 2019. The bill received unanimous support from all the elected representatives in the cabinet, or rather on the government benches, that bill received unanimous support from all the elected representatives in Parliament, or on the government benches, I should say, in Parliament.
Those who want to be the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis must do so because of what they think they can give to our country. I do not see it at all as an entitlement, because I always considered that I had good fortune to serve the country as its third Prime Minister. And that is why I am proud today to bring this with the support of every member of the Cabinet, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the member for St. Christopher 8, our Minister of Agriculture, the member for St. Christopher 1 and Minister of Public Infrastructure, the member for number 4 and Minister of Tourism, the member for Nevis 9 and Minister, our Senior Minister 10, all of us, unanimous in the support.
Every member on the government bench, elected member that should be, spoke as well to the rationale for or of the proposed constitutional amendment. Apart from supporting the bill, every member spoke on the rationale for tabling this amendment bill.
I wish to point out for the record that the Constitution that we're seeking to amend, Mr. Speaker, says nothing about government. It says nothing about opposition. Instead, the wise men and women that framed that document spoke about representatives. You hear what the word is? Representative. All of us, Mr. Speaker, are merely passing through. And I believe that the move and the Prime Minister has put it so eloquently. He recognizes that in his place right now in our history, that he's passing through.
Yes.
If this important amendment to our Constitution were to occur, Mr. Speaker, succession will no longer be something that somebody's walking around in their back pocket and saying, maybe, maybe not, or as I'm hearing today, I'm going to die in my boots. Every government, those of us who are now in government, those who are out of government wanting at some point in the future to get into government, every government will understand that if we get in there, whoever happens to be leader cannot do more than 2 terms.
2 terms. All 7 government representatives in Parliament also voted for the measure. The 4 opposition representatives vacated their seats when the vote was about to be taken. Recall, 8 votes were required for the bill to pass, which meant that one of the opposition representatives had to vote in favor of the bill. But there is a question that looms large, in my mind at least, which is, why is it that the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis tenure of office of the Prime Minister Amendment Bill has not been taken back to the Parliament now? There is a definite 2/3 majority on the government benches. Shouldn't our representatives fix that once and for all, so that no representative can die in his or her boots as Prime Minister? Should we fix it? Are there other constitutional amendments needed that would enhance value or the value of our electoral system? For example, should there be a fixed date for our federal elections? Here in the United States, members of Congress and the president serve fixed terms. General elections for Congress occur every 2 years on election day come November this year. The president is technically elected every 4 years by the Electoral College. Elections in Sweden take place every 4 years, and we can go on and cite countries. But the point is fixed term elections are not uncommon in some parliamentary systems of government around the world. So should there be a fixed term federal election in St. Kitts Nevis that occurs on a set date? I suspect, though, that this will not be a spiffy topic for us to discuss tonight, because all that concerns most of us is who will be our next Prime Minister. But as I said to you before, all political parties need strong political leaders. Putting aside all the efforts expended on their organization, political strategies and programs which are indispensable for continuing success, all political parties need to have appropriate political leaders that are trusted by the country and the voters. This opinion, I know, will create a strong exchange of views. But this is nothing new in our politics and on Straight Talk. I remember these comments that were made last year in St. Kitts, my Straight Talk family. I remember these comments very well.
In understanding coalitions, you have to understand that there's no such thing as it is my turn. Leadership doesn't work that way. I must tell you right now, this is a gross misconception that seems to resonate in people's mind, that if we have a three-party coalition and one party got it this rounds, the next one's supposed to get it the next rounds. This is not how it works. The coalition survives on the strength of the leadership. And if the leadership is not up to the standard of what a nation needs to take it through, then you have to recognize that there is in fact no such thing as another party's turn.
The strength of the leadership determines whether a coalition and will determine whether team unity survives. That's the view of Dr. McNichol. This team unity administration of the last 7 years, nonetheless, I believe it provides a great case study for political science students or students of politics. And this case study presents much variance in opinions. My Straight Talk family.
This whole thing about Prime Minister, this is not anything for anybody to lose any sleep over here. Not to lose any sleep over. Eventually, it will be the voters who determine which of our candidates will win seats. Then it will come down to the makeup of the parliament and the relationship between the parties and the leaders. Politics and elections are about numbers. Who has the most numbers becomes the winner. Put another way, winning only comes if you can accumulate the highest number of seats, either as a majority or as the biggest single bloc. In the present government, PAM has the largest single block of seats in the National Assembly. This was accomplished in 2015 and again in 2020.
And that's the truth. But if we look at a case study. Can we apply that theory or formula in the coalition party context? That's the question we ask. And Professor Sharon Ann Gopal McNichol thinks not. She submits that doesn't apply in the context of a coalition.
There is no such thing as a junior and senior party in a coalition. You have 5 seats, I have 3 seats, therefore I am senior. No, it doesn't work. Without my 1, 2, you could not have gotten there. In a coalition, every single party is equal.
Yes, every single party is equal in a coalition. I heard PM one time spoke about the nose, the ear, and the eyes and so on. But the truth is about leadership is that it does not exist for the leader, but for those who are being led. Leaders are largely unnecessary in times of peace and tranquility. But over the past 2 years in particular, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have been facing a seemingly insurmountable problem or crisis derived from a coronavirus-induced pandemic never seen in 100 years, never seen in a century. We all instinctively looked for and in time realized that we have a good leader. St. Kitts Nevis's current dilemma is not the problems it is facing, but the leaders at our disposal with which to address us. When we reflect, for example, on our past political leaders in the persons of Bradshaw, Southwell, Limor, Simmons, and Douglas, we ask ourselves, did they face or did they have to face enormous decisions with no easy answers? We live in an age desperate for leadership in government, business, churches, and in families. We are all facing Herculean problems that only leadership can fix. If there was ever a time for your life to make a lasting contribution, it is now. Will you rise to the challenge? What's interesting about Prime Minister Harris, though, is that he continues to demonstrate exemplary leadership skills in these times of crisis. When we reflect on the state of our country that Team Unity inherited in 2015, crumbling infrastructure, crime, high public debt, and now the COVID-19 pandemic. In each case of conflict and crisis, it seemed to have enabled Prime Minister Harris as our leader to rise to the occasion. Scientists are still uncertain about how this COVID-19 virus will continue to impact the world in the days, weeks, months, or years to come. But there are still things that we do not know. And when unknowns surround us, we need leadership like what we have in Timothy Harris, who, like other great leaders, is guided by biblical principles at this time of crisis. Our Prime Minister Harris obviously believes in the sovereignty of God. Yes, God is our refuge and strength. And I will say, the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Harris obviously believes in the power of the word. Like the Apostle Paul in prison and facing certain and imminent death, his mind turns to the power of God's word found in 2 Timothy verse 9, which reads, I'm suffering, bound with chains as a criminal, but the word of God is not bound. Like the early Christians, when they were under intense pressure, not because of disease, like COVID in our case, but because of persecution, they turned to prayer, the efficacy of prayer. Like the priests, the Sadducees, and the captain of the temple, so too, he lifted up his voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, thou art my God, which has made heaven and earth, and the sea, and all that in them is. Finally, as Prime Minister, he obviously believes in the resilience of the church. As every opportunity he gets, he goes to a church with confidence and boldness. That attitude must tell all of us that Prime Minister Harris promotes the biblical principle that the church is resilient. And according to the famous words of Jesus, who said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against me. But it boils down to leadership, especially in these times of complexity, in these times of uncertainty, and in these times of unpredictability.
This is a time of crisis. The worst crisis in 100 years. And you need to have competent leadership, focused leadership, hard-working leadership to take the country forward. And that is why I say team unity was never an instrument of convenience. For me, it had always been more than that. It was an instrument for collective action that broadened the governance in the country of St. Kitts and Nevis, that allow us as leaders to bring together the diversity across the political party and give real expression to ourselves, our people, our ability to work together and to put country above party. And that is why, in the midst of the storm, you need a leader who will be calm, collective, rational, reasonable, and with a heart of compassion for the people.
Yes, my straight dog family, I tarried long because it was important to make those points because of what's happening on the ground in St. Kitts. That's my story for tonight, and I'm not going to change it. I'll open the lines and entertain your calls and your emails. Remember, the numbers are 465-2555 or 718-577-2916. Our email address is straighttalk or ZIZstraighttalk@gmail.com. I have outlined the parameters of our discussion, and I will remind you, I will entertain your comments within those parameters. We spoke about the DPP sending back the file to the COP or the Commissioner of Police, and in keeping with his constitutional authority, we asked if he has given any instructions to the Commissioner of Police. We also ask if we should continue to insist that Gerald Anthony Dwight Astafan gives a full account of the contract he personally signed for the La Valley Golf Course development that cost taxpayers money amounting to millions of dollars. Dwight must tell us why or where is the golf course, and if there's none, tell us where has the money gone. Why is it, we ask, that the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis tenure of office of the Prime Minister Amendment Bill has not been taken back to the Parliament now that there's a definite two-thirds majority on the government benches? Should the representatives fix that once and for all so that no representative can die in his or her boots as Prime Minister? Are there other constitutional amendments needed that would enhance the value of our electoral system? For example, should there be a fixed date for our federal election? Should there be a fixed term federal election in St. Kitts that occurs on a set date? When we reflect on our past political leaders in the persons of Bradshaw, Southwell, Limor, Simmons, and Douglas, we ask ourselves, did they have to face enormous decisions with no easy answers like those Harris had to face? Respect others is all I ask you to do. And to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned. Let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let us, in the process of saying and doing those things, let us ensure they be beneficial to all concerned. And in the process of saying and doing those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, at 5 before the 9 o'clock hour, I go to the lines and say, good night, caller, you alive. Hello, caller. At 4 before 9, caller, you live. Are you there, caller? Yes, caller, you live. Okay, seem having slight difficulty, but we'll get that sorted out, I'm sure. Caller, one more time, you're live. Yes, we're asking a few questions. We're asking, as I said, should we have a fixed date for election? Sure. Let's go back to the lines. Call your line.
Good evening, Patches.
Good evening, sir.
The question about leadership. Would you agree that the reason why Prime Minister Harris is such a good leader is because he has a great team behind him? I mean, even Michael Jordan, as some people regard him as the greatest basketball player of all time, but without that team, without the backup players, he never won a championship. So until he was able to put that team together, or his coach was able to put that team together, he became the greatest player by winning so many championships. So with the respect of leadership, I think that if something were to happen to the Prime Minister, anyone on that team could step in and do such a good job, providing that the team stays in place. So I don't think it's a question of, well, only Dr. Harris can be the calm voice in the storm, but others can do the same, providing that they all stick together. It's about team unity, not just about one man. And I think it's unfortunate that it has to come to, well, whose turn it is. Because I think that argument is unnecessary. The team sticks together because it's a great team, and anyone on that team can become a prime minister and do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're correct. It's every leader needs a good team to enhance him, but that team needs good leadership as well. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live.
Good night, Honorable Patrick Liburd.
Good night, my brother Rock.
Yeah, when the government, what we have, the president government, what we have, came into office, I think was a gift from God. I now we're looking at who is the leader, who is going to be the next leader, and nothing like that. I think they come there to save the country. Now, all of a sudden, you got a millionaire talk show host that pressing on the prime minister and making it look like the prime minister is the devil of the world, not of the country, of the world. That's the way he putting it over. But what I would like to tell the host, the millionaire host, he done get money for team unity and for the People's Labour Party to campaign. Where is the money gone? You know, he need to just relax himself and leave what he have to do to continue to make $1 million by begging everybody for pipe. Now, here's come the deputy prime minister, right, being pushed over by Dwyer Ascapan all the time and calling him all kind of names. And the millionaire man who say he trained by Dwyer Ascapan, up to now, he ain't said nothing on the deputy prime minister behalf. God don't not ugly, and he don't care too much for pretty. You know, and I am not going down the other part with the police and the DPP and the commissioner and so on. Because me know nothing about laws. So I leave in that alone. But I think they need to do the right thing. Because they must know what went wrong and who do wrong and who do right. Just like the other day, Jedi had a program talking about children being molested by the parents. And up to now, it's a talk all over everybody now who molest the children and different things, and nothing being doing about it. You know, but today they want to read a Bible in their hand and give the impression they're the most holy set of people. All they do is predators on their own children and them. You understand me? And when the police them try to step in, they try to hold back the police by giving them a perfume, a watch, and a chain. Good night. God bless the Prime Minister and Team Unity.
God bless you as well, my dear brother. At 9:02, we go straight back to the lines. Caller, you live.
Yes, namesake, good night.
Namesake, good night.
Yes. I don't know if you heard about it. I didn't get you from the beginning, but I don't know if you heard of the passing of Seki. It is Tuda. You know, he passed something last week before last weekend, so Saturday gonna make a week since we miss him.
Seki,
you hear me? Tuda. Seki. From Molyneux, we used to run bus in the East Line to Molyneux.
Okay. Nothing here about that. My
yeah, he'll be later rest on Thursday this week. So I just happened to put in that because I haven't heard you mention anything about that. But you know, move on from that. I just want to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have 3 more years before election, and I think that we need to look at what's going on right now in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have so much things to look after. The COVID is still with us, and we're still in such a crisis that we need to look at where we're leaving to where we're going. Because Dr. Harris has been doing a good job during this pandemic, and I pray God that he continue until election day come. Because we got until 2025 or 2024, whichever time he's ready to call the election. Because only he alone can call election. And I'm happy for that. Because you see so many people trying to see who's going to be leader next or who's going to do this and who's going to do that. But I want to say, the People's Action Movement got to be so careful. It's a party that I support. And I want to say that to them, they got to be careful of the bait that the opposition is throwing out, because they're going to get caught up with the bait. And I want to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, we are not foolish. And we know who is a good leader from who is a hireling, from who just come, only want to get rich out of the poor people of St. Kitts. Because we have seen that before. The poor people of St. Kitts suffers while some get rich, come millionaire, and they still want to believe that they'll be the best thing for St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, never, it's so far from the truth. That never happened. Because when you got a party that was in power, had so much money, in 2010 and by 2011, they take us to the IMF, while they are rich in their pocket, and the people of St. Kitts still left poor, and left with a millstone around our neck, leaving us with a high debt to pay, and then still taxes from the cradle to the grave. So we got to look at that. And we got to realize who is the best person to lead us. Dr. Timothy came on board in 2015 at the right time to take us out of this morass that we was in. And we are saying that Dr. Timothy is doing a good job. I don't say when the time comes, he needs to exit, yes. But for now, I feel that we have 2 more years and we should let that to rest until such time. But there's one more thing I want to say. We are still suffering at the East Line bus terminal with nobody here to direct what goes on from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 o'clock in the night. Too many buses are driving up here while we are here in the bus terminal waiting to get a trip. And picking up people are walking, coming toward the bus terminal. So right now we're having a problem still, and we need to get that redressed. We need a police officer. The restaurant have 3 and 4 police down there at afternoon still, maybe 10, 11 o'clock in the night. But we up here can't even get one to make sure that things go right. In the East Line bus terminal, we are suffering, and we need to get some redress. May God bless you as you continue to do what you do to make sure that St. Kitts and Nevis get the best there is. But we are still waiting for our food on our plate by getting somebody here to make sure that we get proper representation. That's what we are paying for as taxpayers of this country. God bless you. Have a good night.
God bless you as well. I passed by the West Bus Line Terminal last week, Saturday night, I think it was, and I'm sure I saw about 3 or 4 police officers, and they wonder why, as you are saying, there are none at the East Bus Line Terminal. They ought to be distributed accordingly. Caller, let's go back to lines. You're live.
Greetings in the name of our great African ancestors, especially the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and Queen and Zinga. Blessed evening, my beloved African brother. How are you, the family?
Peaceful, my brother. Blessed evening. What about you and yours?
Good, man. Good. The clan, I'm good and the clan is good. Now, beloved brother, the Commissioner of Police and the DPP, the Director, or some people say the Director of Public Prosecution, they need to stop playing with people and do what they have to do and stop flinging the ball in the DPP court and then the DPP fling it back over. You know, come on, man. Get things right. I bet that was Nabu. They don't get things right long time. Any ordinary civilian from any town or village out in St. Kitts or Nevis. They don't come down, fire and brimstone, be arrested on the spot, even beat them on the spot. You think any ordinary person could do what they say alleged Lindsay did? No, brother. They done bring about up on charges, man. Stop playing game, Mr. Commissioner of Police and the DPP. People in St. Kitts, African people are more intelligent than that, man. Stop the crap. Come on. This is why, beloved brother Patches and other brothers and sisters out there, hear me. You see, when our young people, our children, talking about young people, see and hear these kinds of things going on in society, that's why some of them gonna feel like, man, if he can do it or she can do it, we can do it too. Children learn by the surroundings. So when some of the elders set bad examples, some of our children gonna go down the same road, and you can't condemn them, and you're doing the same thing. Elders cannot condemn young people when they do certain things, because they do the same thing. They do the things and then the youth them follow them. How you can condemn somebody that you're cocaine snort, you snort cocaine, and then a young person gonna come and snort cocaine, alcoholic, some gangster shoot up a place, and then the youth them follow you, and then you can't condemn them. Come on, man, let's get things right. So most of our children do the right things. This is a modern society. This ain't no backward society. It's a modern society. And let us act likewise. Man, this thing is just awful. And an embarrassment and a disgrace to intelligent people. And when I say intelligent people, I not talk about people who got BA, MA, and PhD. Because they're having them things there don't make you intelligent and got common sense. It's good that somebody think, but they need common sense also to go with degrees. So, brother, again, we call upon the Commissioner of Police and the DPP to do the right thing. Now, brother, let me talk about this quote-unquote leadership thing. Brother, I got a lot of respect for Dr. Harris. But, brother, it was up to me, come next election, Brother Nambo, I don't know for anybody else, I wouldn't have no problem with Dr. Harris being the Minister of Finance again. Brilliant when it comes to fiscal management. Just one more time, Dr. Harris. In the process, I sure they got others there, training up young people who could come as brilliant as Dr. Harris, or more brilliant. But the problem I have, Dr. Harris shouldn't be the Prime Minister for a third term. We can't continue down that road like what we had in the past. The people there for 20-some, Bratcher was there for so long. I mean, they wasn't Prime Minister. But it's still the same thing. Quote-unquote, leader of the country, right? And then we had the clown from St. Paul's, 20 years. No, 10 years is enough, beloved. 10 years. 10 years is enough. If larger country got almost 400 million people, I'm talking about the U.S., 8 years. Why? You don't even have, maybe you are maximum 60,000 people, if that much. You could do that, man. Do that. Let someone else. And see, brother, why this administration is not, now they have the two-thirds majority. Why none of them have the courage to take back that legislation, whether you want to tweak it or what, and the thing put it to the National Assembly and vote on it. Come on, got to be serious. This ain't no Mickey Mouse thing, you know. This ain't no Mickey Mouse. God, brother, I never voted in St. Kitts Nevis. This is not the first time. Just give me about 30 seconds, beloved, and I'll wrap up.
Please,
right?
please.
What you say, beloved?
Yeah, please wrap up, yeah.
Wrap it up now. Brother, take it back and vote on it. And I mean, it wouldn't like affect Dr. Harris, but Dr. Harris, you're supposed to be a reasonable man, right? You had 2 terms. You did a great job, right? Let someone else take over, my brother, at the prime ministership. And like I said, I have no problem if you being a minister responsible for finance the last time for three terms, and then you exit. There's a younger person, beloved. So, brother, you got to get serious and do the right thing, brothers and sisters. Brother, thanks again for hearing me. Keep up the great works. Pan-Africanism or perish. One love, my beloved brother.
One love, my brother. I'm going to guide you, my straight-up family, by the rules of birthday. Let's try to get in our points in 2.5 minutes. I think that's reasonable time to say quite a lot of things. Let's go back to the lines at 9:14. Call you live.
That is good night.
My dear brother, Politics, good night.
Yeah, this is Mr. Politics here, as usual. Calling to uplift the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. I want to thank God for the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. Thank God for life. I country I born into and live into up to now, with different political issues and Mr. Bracha administration come up to Dr. Kennedy Simmons administration and come up now to the Dr. Douglas administration. So I don't face 3 administrations in this country as living here and around them and know what's going on in the country. Patches leadership is very important, and leadership is very matter in any part of the world you go. When you got a good leader, hold it. If West Indies had Clive Lloyd, right? I believe West Indies will on the top of the world still. If West Indies had Bibi Richard, I believe West Indies will on the top of the world, because those men was great leaders. They fight the fight to West Indies, and leadership always important. And if you got a good leader, when you going to change him for it, that leader is doing well. He had Greg Chappell in Australia, was a very good leader in anybody in Chappell. And they were successful, winning cricket test match all the time, all over the world. And to be truthful, leadership, again, is very important, no matter what nobody can say. Because everybody in a government cannot lead. Some ministers lack, some ministers can't perform. And if the prime minister ain't pull up some ministers in the ministry, nothing will ever done to them. So leadership is always important. Anybody can lead, regardless of what people can say. We see it is reality. But some people in this country try to mash up the unity, and people who in the unity look like they're studying them, because any government, political party in government, I believe that is a big achievement to them, whether they're in unity or whether they got the prime ministership or what. So if them want to follow who on the opposition side, who greedy and who want to get in there to put all back into the situation where this country was into, it's a matter to them if they want that happen, Patches. Because I know that Dr. Harris, as the leader of this country, is doing a great job. You understand? No Liburd, no Doya Astafan, no panic factory registration, and whosoever coming on and talking about Dr. Harris this and Dr. Harris that. Look at the demonstration, the protest at the end of the day. It's a matter about Lindsey Grant, and it's a matter about Sean. And Dr. Harris, I didn't name that car, but Dr. Harris must go, Harris must go, Harris must go. Petition is not stupid. We're more people being stupid. When you got a great leader, keep him. I say that if Dr. Harris wants to, when the election come and the unity, and they're going to the unity concept again, and they win the election, and if Dr. Harris wants to turn the leadership over to any one of them, he will do it. Who win the most seats, they want to take the leadership, they take the leadership. But we should keep this unity. Because you got some people in this country, like Liburd, Carlton, Japan, nobody should take it serious, as far as I'm concerned. You know, particularly the reason why nobody should take it serious? But a year and a half ago, he went company talk show and said that he wanted to give back to all who serve the country $10,000. People like Mark Brantley, the former Prime Minister Dr. Kennedy, Dr. Kennedy Simmons, Mr. Parry, and I think it's Van Samari. That is $40,000 there. And he says a lot of poor people. And politics of the devil. Here the politics, here study of politics of the devil. Politician is a politician that. And he says a lot of people. We got Kim Collins here, who went and win the world champion. And we got a lot of young people here interested in athletics. Suppose he take that $40,000 and organize with Kim Collins and get some kind of athletic sport, you know, form a committee, athletic committee, and get Kim Collins that $40,000 and help him to train young people in this country. See who you gonna give money? People who active in politics, tell people who working, getting maybe $10,000 a month, he gonna give them money. So I want to know if people like clicking about Tabo, like poor people, and nobody must come down in a he place. Every the plan this in petition. Okay. He want people to support him. You understand? So like Carlton, looking about Japan and Japan, there's not. I don't think nobody's stupid. There's not that question. There's not. Okay. Nobody should even study them or listen to them. Who want to listen to them? Let them go on the panic factory, go listen to them. But nobody should listen to them. Because they don't have no love. They don't have no thing to the young people and to the ordinary people in this country. That is a wonderful, but God bless the Federation, God bless the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, and maybe they continue after this 5 years to lead the country again. All right, Patrick.
Okay, got you loud and clear. Thanks for your intervention. At 21 past 9, we go straight back to the lines. Call your line. Good evening, dear. Wow. Okay, I'm going to hear my Labour friend there. Sometimes she seems to call me from her bunker, and sometimes she comes across so clearly. At 22 past 9, I do apologize for the quality of that call. Let's go straight back to the lines. Call your line.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick, for taking my call. Good evening. And I know you're in good health, so I'm going to ask you how you're doing. And good evening to my good friend over there in Antigua, Prime Minister Gaston Brown. Thank you for your advice. Because you handled Goyo so rightful. And I believe that kind of poop you were talking about, tell him keep your poop in sink it. That is a poop where you eat avocado, garlic, milk, and a rotten boiled egg. So you handle him well. Now let me deal with him. We're going to leave the other thing then because time short. Patches, I want to tell you this. You were living up Newton Bay by a gentleman used to rewire motors and alternators. And I know if you had to go there by him to learn your trade, you would have leave the job with dignity and with grace. You would not leave his job in disgrace. like one of them who calling your name, the 2-foot mattress, the person, the 2-foot individual who take in the back, make a mattress bed. Got your name and the Prime Minister name. I don't know what you all do him. And he went alone trade with a man in Sandy Point, and as soon as the man dead, the man's sister tell him, don't come back in here. Do not come back in here. You are fired. Because you can't see the man money and leave it. So like when he abusing you and Dr. Harris, none of you take up nobody money. Let it clear with the oil first. That same individual, you're going to tell me you're going to take up God's word, the Bible, and so you read into the Bible. What are you reading the Bible to people for? For people to follow what the Lord requires of us. And when you don't put on the Bible, it's bad word. So, brother, the wrath of God going to drop down upon his so hard, you hear me, that he going to want to know what happened to him. Nobody going to put no obey upon you. Let me go to this man, you know, Dwyer. Dwyer had to be ashamed of himself. Like Mr. Gaston Brown said. He called Dr. Douglas all kind of name, all kind of thing to bring him down, Dr. Douglas. When you don't bring down Dr. Douglas, he said Dr. Douglas is a green man. And then he turned around now and get what he want from Team Unity, from the leader, the Prime Minister, Harris. He could have get what he want, but you have to come the right way. And if your application is meet the requirement, then you get what you want. But he want to come in with an application with insufficient information on the application and get what you want. No, you ain't going to work so. And you want to go on to the back. You ain't going to work like that, brother Doyle. Keep off with the Prime Minister and patches them back. They ain't do you nothing. You don't try all kind of thing in this country here. And you're a failure. Tell us about the two machines you got down La Valley down there. Since you like to push barrow with wheel, go down there and push the generator and the desalination plant. Push them out in the sea and make artificial reef with them. Instead of that, you open down the place, you pushing barrow. Look so foolish. Eh? You could hardly walk. You could hardly walk in a long t-shirt and a long pants and talk about you pushing barrow with big stone in it and all kind of foolishness. For what? Dr. Harris is a good leader. He's leading the country. And Dr. Harris, he's obligated to his commitment. They make a decision in Parliament. All of them agreed that Dr. Harris, the present Prime Minister, he will serve 2 terms. Nobody hear him come out and say he wants 3. It's only speculation around people saying that he managed the country so good and he should take 3. But it was agreed, like I say, in Parliament. And when his 2 terms is ended, he will gracefully dress over. And the next Prime Minister to be is Honorable Sean Kennedy Richard, and Dr. Harris will be working alongside Sean. He's not an ungrateful man. Patches, time short, I have a lot of things to say. Let's do a talk about the La Valley Golf Course money. But he want him to, apparently want him to say, why did you sign? Why you sign? Why you sign? You know you sign. Well, tell us why you sign. And where the money gone. But you can't remember something happened last month, but you can remember something happened 1940 and 1935 on Buckley's Patches. You have a good night here. I'll see you when we got more time. Thank you.
Have a good night as well. And just to remind those who may have just joined us, we're discussing several issues tonight. And I laid out parameters in relation to the constitutional authority of the DPP. And asked the question whether the file was sent back to the Commissioner of Police. Why is it, we ask as well, that the constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis tenure of office of Prime Minister Amendment Bill has not been taken back to the Parliament now that there's a definite 2/3 majority on the government benches? I also ask, should our representatives fix that once and for all so that no representative can die in his or her boots as Prime Minister? Are there other constitutional amendments needed that will enhance the value of the electoral system? For example, should there be a fixed date for federal elections? When we reflect, beg your pardon, on our past political leaders in the process of Bradford, Southern, Limo, Simmons, and Douglas, we ask, did they face or have to face enormous decisions with no easy answers like those being faced by Timothy Harris? These are some of the questions we ask. We go back to the lines. I thank this caller for holding. It's 9:28. Call you live.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me. Good night, Brother Patches. Good night, all listeners of Straight
Good night,
Talk. I actually chime into the program late, and I didn't really hear the topic, but I think I heard something more to do with leadership. And this is my injection into the mix. It's about time for people, listeners, and criticizers to speak about things that affect and will improve the infrastructure and what the people really need, not want. It's about time for another leader to come forward and announce their candidacy and announce their forecast for what the people need based on the cry. My name is Winston Anthony Welcome. I think I have what it takes to be a great leader of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am not here to criticize any leader that past and present. I don't have time for that. But I will like to improve on all the good that has been done to this federation and continue to do the best moving forward. I am open for critique. I welcome criticism because that's what will make a great leader learn to be better. So let us focus on what the needs of the federation, which are the people, and what needs to be done on grounds, the infrastructure, improvement. Let's stop the fight. Let's stop the anger. Let's stop the division. Let's harmonize. Let us live humble and peaceful moving forward. That's what will make a good environment, good society. But like I said, I'm not here to criticize, but I'm here to improve. And I would like to be given a chance on that recognition. And like I said, I hope that there are others who can make that call. But as of tonight, I am striving in the path of announcing my candidacy, whatever the protocol is that I will have to go through. I am asking for the support of the people. I will try to make the best. Moving forward, I am not a beater, a hater for any past and present leaders. Let us improve. Let's unite. Let's harmonize. Let's restore dignity. My dignity is your dignity, and your dignity is mine. So help me God. Thank you for having me. Thank you for hearing me. That's what we need. I hope there are others who can do that too. Simplicity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We asked, should be a fixed term federal election in St. Kitts? In other words, it occurred on a set date. What are other constitutional amendments do we need? Shouldn't we take that Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis tenure of office of the Prime Minister Amendment Bill back to the Parliament? We have the votes to get it passed. Why not take it back to the Parliament? Caller, thank you for holding your life.
Hello, good night. Hey, Patrick,
Good night,
how are you?
I am peaceful.
Okay.
Yourself?
Tonight I'm here. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. Tonight I really wasn't gonna call in actually. Tonight. But something touched me when I'm here. I would Nabo had called from the States actually, and he was talking about the situation, and he was talking about you must be to your word. If you say you're gonna do it two, you must do two. That's the impression I got. What Nabo was saying. But what I realized that when Nabo hung up the phone actually. I know you were saying that we got to be on a time frame, because other people want to call. I understand that, but I don't remember. A lot of times Naba call in, and I never hear you mention things like that. But I think a lot of these talk show hosts, actually, once you're not talking what they want you to talk or what they think you should talk, they got a comment after you're done, like the timing, what you talk, and things like that. I don't think it should be like that, I think a lot of people listening all over the world, and it should be... For one should go for one, should go for all. I don't think it should be because I listen to a lot of the talk shows, and a lot of them, once you're not talking what they want to hear, they're ready to cut you, but then they'll tell you just talk for 5 minutes. But then they will have a person talk for 10 minutes after you did just tell you that. It should not be like that. What go for one should go for all, and it should be surrounded around the whole table. Now, another thing. No, if Sean Richard can be the next Prime Minister, when Mr. Harris will start the campaign, I don't know. I mean, when it's a campaign, talking about him and try to put him to the front, I'm not hearing anything as I should be hearing because, these times are flying fast, as you know. As soon as you wink, election time is here and us again. It might not look like he's moving fast, but when he going to be campaigning, I just want to know that because sometimes when a person get they play, they don't really care about somebody else's play, actually, because I think that by now he should have been done campaigning about Sean Richard. I think it's really... I listen to a lot of talk shows, I listen to a lot of things, but you can't wait until an election to start a campaign about Mr. Richards, okay? Because you said he will be the next Prime Minister, but you just find it and you mean something else, or tell us what you're doing. Have a nice night. Bye.
Have a good night as well. I do thank you for your intervention, and I like your guidance, but we don't really cut people off here. We just try to beg them, so to speak, to keep within the time limits. And some people, they're just never out of words. If you give them an opportunity, they will talk all night. I understand at the times, but we ask them to just put their eyes, or keep their eyes on the clock. Caller, I thank you for holding you alive.
Patrick. Mr. Patrick, good night.
Mr. Bibleman.
Yes, the Bibleman is here. No, Mr. Patrick, I can't do nothing. I get up a morning time, I can't do a thing. I'm God. And everything people are supposed to put God in. But it seems like, and I am not going to take 6 minutes, not 5 minutes, not 4 minutes. When I don't talk, I'm going to disappear. Here we are. In Psalm 75 and verse 6, and a lot of people don't really understand that. Promotion cometh neither from the east, nor the west, nor the south. God is the judge of. God is the judge. He put down and he set up. Now, in everything that somebody do, it happened in the Old Testament, God set up kings, and you have no man, no king. And Mr. Patrick said, as I can say, in 2015, if the Labour Party is supposed to go in government, they would have really changed because of man. But God say, not them. Is God, have the Lord say, not man. People must realize it. So when I hear people say this and that, God is the last say, Mr. Patrick, have a pleasant night. Me ain't taking a 6 minutes. And when me and here, people will want me go out. They cuss hell out of me. But when people take all the 6 and 7 minutes, nobody cuss them. But you see, a righteous man must suffer persecution. Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Have a pleasant night.
Thank you, Mr. Bible Man. Promotion cometh neither from the east, nor the west, nor the south. Let's go back to the lines. Call your line.
Good night, Honorable Mr. Minister.
Good night, my brother.
And good night to the listening audience right around the planet. And I just want to let the caller before the one day know that Nabokwa always call back and get what you want to say done and get what you want to say actually said. So that ain't an issue. So don't pressure the host. The host know what he's doing. He got to make sure he do have up all the time too. Now, but good night. Now, I want to mention this here, Mr. Liburd, Minister Liburd. In this country here, from what I know, he had His Excellency Powell, Ambassador Powell, and he had Honorable Minister Sam Kondo, and he had Minister and Prime Minister Timothy Harris run for 2 different political parties for public office, right? And only one of them, you might have another one, who make it and win, and actually went further to be Prime Minister. In speaking about leadership, as Mr. Gopal said, it doesn't go by turn. If we have a quality leadership like this, why must we get rid of it? That's the problem. Why? I don't think we're going to allow that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. No other individual in this country have done what Timothy Harris have done in terms of running for public office for 2 political parties and winning, and not just winning, become Prime Minister. That is exemplary. That is distinguishable. Yeah? Nobody else have done that. And we ain't going to just throw that there. Just so. It's just because he could make more history and he got more to give in terms of making sure he look out and look after the people of this country here who for 20 years have never even got $500 from the Labour Douglas administration. Never. And that goes a long way for the poor people in this country here. Every month. And the people, never forget that deal. Now, I'm going to finish soon. Because I'm going to finish soon with the man who had a will set out for when he dead, for his son to inherit everything his mother and his auntie them left for the family. That is a man with heart. That is a man with heart, Minister Liburd. You can't do that. But when you dead, everything that's left for you, your son and everything, what about your brother and your sister, your auntie and everybody else? And you cousin them. That was not right. And he know that. And that's the problem. That's what the man say. You were suspicious. And people must always remember to tell him that he personally have things where he needs to tell the country about. Have a good night, Mr. Liburd.
Have a good night as well. Yes, undue influence is what Justice Ward, I think it was, his actions. Undue influence on Gwyneth Haley. Caller, you live.
That is. Yes, Patrick, I always want to see a clear and a clean constitution in this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I always want to see that. Patrick, in a way, one man, one vote. The constitution meant by doing this, the integrity and all kind of different things.
But you see, when one political party gets in government, nobody concerned about no constitution. Well, Labour was in for 20 years. And you hear people like Sharpman them coming on and talking about constitution and corruption and all kind of things. You never hear these things. And a lot of things used to go on under the former administration, especially in election time. With voting, people going to vote in constituency where they never live. People come vote as they like, just go vote like that. People in this country suffer a lot from that in the past. People coming just go vote a piece of land. Up to now, a lot of land go out. Nobody come back from overseas to say nothing, do nothing about the land them. The land them just there in wilderness. And other neighbors who live close to this land, suffering with cassia trees, bush, and all kind of things. These are what took place, especially in 2010. You never find people like Sharpman them coming on and tackling all these things for 20 years. But in 7 years, they want everything done. And that's why the people ignore them all the time. And Patches, before I go, the call I was talking about, you with Brother Nabu, you think with Nabu, Patches, you all respond to call when they sing. You tell Brother Nabu that's the opinion. Where you want you go on and talk and say? You know? Just tell him that opinion, but you see all of them that listen to the panic factory with Carlton Liburd Japan. All of them that listen to his nonsense, them that talk, come on every morning, I read Bible and twist Bible and turn Bible and all kind of nonsense. These people love the country, I say again, Liburd and Rastafan, them they love people, they don't love the country, they don't love trinkets. They're just about themselves and themselves, and I'll meet them anyone tell them so. They don't love this country. But when God really going to deal with them, that is ever wonderful ever God, but somebody get a chance.
God bless you as well. I would like a fixed date for general elections. Reads this message. Absolutely, there should be set terms and set election date occurring either every 4 or 5 years. And if it's a same Harris and Company having tabled the constitutional amendment for prime ministership for 2 terms. Harris has his plans for 2025. That's why he hasn't tabled prime minister terms. Read this message. This other message reads, leadership invokes making sound and sometimes difficult decisions, creating and articulating a clear vision, establishing achievable goals. Please don't rush the PM. Let him continue doing his work. Brilliant leader. It's up to Timothy Harris if he wants to run for next term while he feels that way. Let's go back to the Lions caller. I want to thank you for holding. It's 15 before 10. You're live.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable.
Good evening.
Yes. Now, what I want to say, right? When you watch it, you have 3 parties that put together and call themselves unity. Where the Prime Minister get the powers to send a man out from another party to campaign. So what happened to the party? What happened to Mark Brantley party? You know, these people have to realize it's 3 parties put together. But every man, every one of them holding the weight of their own party. So why accuse the Prime Minister for not campaigning for them and not sending out to help them campaign and so on? Each man should for themselves. If they win the election again, right, and they go back to the house, and the Prime Minister want to step down and give them a chance between themselves, or they vote amongst themselves, who they want to be the next leader. During the time the Prime Minister was the leader elected as the leader, man was up at the government house trying to change it. You know, so they got a lot of cooks in between the same party there, what you call unity party. So leave the Prime Minister like he said and steer the ship until the 5 years come, until they go back to the poll. When they go back to the poll and they want to form their own party, you hear Dr. Simon said it down at Sandy Point, but they got the majority. But what have Dr. Simon forget? That he himself getting what he get because of Timothy Harris. And the fact remain, he could not, none of them could have formed a government in St. Kitts without Timothy Harris. None of them. You understand me? Let us see government headquarters and the only way to go down there just to get a passport form, you know. But Harris made sure that he pulled them go from street to street, house to house, country to country, country to town, campaigning to get these guys elected. But let it continue. You know, Mr. Walker till you will one day. Patrick, you have a good night, and God bless you, God bless the Prime Minister, and let him continue do what he was put there to do, to help the poor, and that is what he's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. A foundation must be built to be inherent to carry out the benefits of its people without being a hypocrite. The late Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw built that foundation, and people can now enjoy, because St. Kitts was built on class stratification. Reads this message. Caller, you're live. Yes, caller?
How are you, brother?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
I'm very, very good listening to your sweet topic. Mr. Patches, the word unity is a blessed word. It's a divine word. The only how we see the word is when we read the Bible. So we know that's a word that is spiritual and is divine. And when mankind associate themselves with that word, mankind definitely have to feel themselves born again. The Bible says, ye must be born again. We got to change our ways. It's one thing to be a politician, but when the people say, work in unity, those who say themselves they are politicians, they got to get rid of a certain attitude. You know? I feel the term limit should go back to Parliament for another time, another reading. The campaign, more seats, that will go back to the floor. And I know one in this term, it will go back to the floor. I don't have no doubt that would go back to the floor. I think the president have to set, because unity is about reforming. You can't find yourself lapsing. You have to reform. And I always feel the team that is there, seeing that the Prime Minister always tell the country, the cabinet always give him support. The policies that they come from cabinet, providing there's others there who have that human touch with the people. There are others there who can govern the country as well. When the FIPS, look at how that ministry helped people through the pandemic. See that the information is qualified, that they could get the whatever they should be rewarded of.
Severance.
Right. Everything. That ministry performed very highly, and usually human touch at the persons in the ministry who's handling those ministries. And that was very good. Mr. Patches, safe a brighter future. The Deputy Prime Minister of this country, he shouldn't be in a problem about position because he's in a good position where he is. And his performance within the administration in this term would say whether or not the people would see he is qualified to be the Prime Minister. His attitude, everything that is afforded about leadership, he got to show it in this term. The last press conference the Prime Minister had, somebody asked a question concerning drainage in Shadwell. He had no idea what's going on. Once or twice he had no idea what's going on. He needs to get himself focused on what he's there for, to develop the policies of the government to empower the people. He needs to stay focused because no one's supposed to ask another question concerning Shadwell Jane. If the question is asked, it's supposed to be said it is rectified. It shouldn't be a complaint sticking in the ear that cannot be rectified. Politicians love ministers when they do things. You see how the promotion you get is because you went in there and you do things. When the fifth ministry does do things, the Prime Minister himself does do things. People don't want things to be lapsing. And that is what some of those guys who say they want to be leaders of this country, they got to get rid of the status quo. They got to remember people ain't continuing more and more party. It's about unity, and people got to find ideas. You play the clip tonight with the Prime Minister, the last clipping. Different parties come together to share ideas, to focus the development of your people. It's about empowerment. Mr. Patrick, you continue to be good. Stay strong. Jagged. Stay healthy.
Thank you, my brother. Stay healthy and safe as well. The competition was between Labour and Unity, and with Unity being successful, it would be downright disingenuous for the components of Unity not to support the best leader for the country. And in 1995, it was Dwyer who promised to make St. Kitts another Haiti. Reads this message. This other message reads, so you're right. 40 days and 40 nights, Satan don't want to give up. That's what Jupon is. So never let your heart be troubled, for his mind is very disturbed. Don't worry. He's doing a big favor for Team Unity. It will get better by the day. Back to the lines, caller at 4 before 10 o'clock. You are live. Hello, caller. Yes, it's 4 before 10. Caller, you live. Yes, caller, you're listening to your radio equipment. You're live.
Hello, Patches?
Yes, you're live.
Patches?
Yes, Major. You just woke up.
Yes, how are you? How are you? How are you?
Peaceful. Yourself?
Yes, yes. Now, Patches, listen to me, right? And I want you to, before you go to sleep tonight, read this passage of Scripture. What it is saying here, it is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verses 21. Here's what he's saying, because I think about it. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from the latter, he will be a vessel for honor, sanctified and useful for a mastery, prepared for every good work. Now, some time ago, I spoke, that was last week, and I gave you a little idea about the characteristic of a leader. You remember that? You remember that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Major.
And because of that, I told you, to be a leader, you got to be flexible. That's it. You got to be intelligent, Patches. And you got to be resourceful. Leaders, people say leaders was made, they are born. And I believe that. You had Bradshaw was a good leader. And he was a giant of a leader. You got this one here, Timothy, he's not too bad. But you know, sometimes people chat stupidness, sometimes I don't understand. But to be a leader, you got to be enthusiastic, man. And some of the people that here coming on the radio and talking, it just, not yet and upset me, because I did leadership and I have leadership qualities. Because if no one's a leader, I don't believe I'll be able to reach where I am. And you, just tonight when you go to sleep, read that. Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 21. And you do analyzing and parsing, and you'll see what it is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Major. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified, and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Caller, you're live. Yes, caller.
Good night, Patches. Good night.
Good night, my dear.
Yes, you know one thing. I'm here listening contentively. Everybody talking about the Bible, and nobody, I read that from top to bottom and listen to what the Bible says, but everybody go quote the Bible. And none of the politicians I listen to me, and a lot of them I run and go church. They run and go. And when you look, you see different. But it's okay, because God ain't no map. You have a gentleman who calling, oh, God bless his country. We understand he's the most miserable person you could think about, doing some wrong things. And God won't no map, you know. You're talking about God because you believe in God. If you ain't believe in God, you don't call God mouth. Like, it's a wash mouth for people. God is a good God, and that's it. That make you put brimstone and fire on the sky. Everybody take the Lord God thy name in vain. Right in vain, and not really mean nothing. Have a good night. The Lord ain't a mock. None are you true. No, not one.
Thank you very much. It's just about 10. I'll take 2 more calls, and I'll wrap for the night. Caller, you're live.
Patrick.
Hello. Yes. Yes, Jamdo.
Patrick, let me show you something, you know. We have seen leadership in this country from the great Robert Bradshaw into Kennedy Simmons, now Timothy Harris. You don't get them in 2 and 3 terms. And you got to make sure you hold leadership when you got it. You understand? I know the people in this country in a pandemic can't afford to do stupid things when you got real leadership. This is serious times. And leaders must understand that it can't make no sense to rooting for leadership when you have good leadership and your country is doing well. It can't make no sense at all. We gotta think sensibly. This ain't about ministers and leadership. This is about poor people and warning them, you know, who feel they could come a millionaire in 4 days, you know, and work in this country with jam down, you know. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Jam Down. I'll take my final call for the night. Caller, you're live. Take this and make this my final call. Yes, caller? Okay. But you're saying, and what you said, my straight dog family, is so appropriate in terms of going forward. And perhaps I'll call that a wrap and make Jam Down my final caller for the night and end on that particular note in terms of holding our leadership. Because the truth about leadership is that it does not really exist for the leader, but leadership is for those who are being led. And Jam Down made the point about leaders we've had before. Over the past 2 years, in particular, the people of St. Kitts Nevis have been facing what seems like an insurmountable problem or crisis that has derived from a coronavirus-induced pandemic. Never seen one in over a century. We all instinctively look for, and in time, we realize that we have a good leader. St. Kitts and Nevis's current dilemma is not the problems it is facing, but the leaders at its disposal with which to address these problems. When we reflect on our past political leaders, we think of Bradshaw, Southwell, Limor, Simmons, Douglas. We ask ourselves, we must ask ourselves this question: did they face, or did they have to face enormous decisions with no easy answers? We live in an age desperate for leadership. Leadership in government, business, the church, in families. They are all facing Herculean problems that only good leadership can fix. If there was ever time for your life to make a lasting contribution, it is now. Will you rise to that challenge? What's interesting about Prime Minister Harris is that he continues to demonstrate exemplary leadership skills in these times of crisis. Come on, don't you remember just 2 years ago when the whole world came to a screeching halt because of this pandemic? Don't you remember when Team Unity came into office in 2015? There's a crumbling infrastructure, crime out of control, high public debt, and then the COVID-19 pandemic crippled many countries. And in each case of conflict, in each case of crisis, it seemed to have enabled the Prime Minister Harris as our leader, who rose to every occasion. Scientists are still uncertain about how this COVID-19 virus will continue to impact the world in the days, the weeks, the months, or years to come. But there are still things that we do not know. And when unknowns surround us, we need the leadership like what we have in Harris, who, like other great leaders, is guided by biblical principles at this time of crisis. Our Prime Minister obviously believes in the sovereignty of God. Yes, God is our refuge and strength. And I will say, the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. He believes in the power of the word, just like the Apostle Paul in prison, facing certain and imminent death. His mind turned to the power of God's word found in 2 Timothy, verse 9. I am suffering, bound with chains as a criminal, but the word of God is not bound. Like the early Christians, when they were under intense pressure, not because of COVID, the disease, like in our case, but because of persecution, they turned to prayer. They persecute the Prime Minister, but the efficacy of prayer, like the priests, the Sadducees, and the captain of the temple, so too, he lifted up his voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, thou art God, which has made heaven and earth, and the sea, and all that in them is. And certainly and finally, Prime Minister Harris obviously believes in the resilience of church. As every opportunity he gets, he goes to church with confidence and boldness. That attitude must tell all of us that Prime Minister Timothy Sylvester Harris promotes the biblical principle that the church is resilient, and according to the famous words of Jesus, who said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. It boils down to leadership, especially in these times of complexity, uncertainty, and unpredictability. In times of crisis, we need a good leader.
This is a time of crisis. The worst crisis in 100 years. And you need to have competent leadership, focused leadership, hard-working leadership to take the country forward. And that is why I said team unity was never an instrument of convenience. For me, it had always been more than that. It was an instrument for collective action that broadened the governance in the country of St. Kitts and Nevis, that allow us as leaders to bring together the diversity across the political party and give real expression to ourselves, our people, our ability to work together and to put country above party. And that is why, in the midst of the storm, you need a leader who will be calm, collective, rational, reasonable, and with a heart of compassion for the people.
We need a leader with a heart of compassion for the people. A leader who puts country above party. That's my story for tonight. And I am not going to change it. But I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight. And as always, I want to thank you, the callers. There's some who couldn't get in. I do apologize for that. Thank you who sent your messages. Those on social media, we thank you as well. Facebook, YouTube. And those who listen to radio on the Big Bad 96.1 ZIZ Radio. Remember, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason I say a big, big thank you. We cannot forget in the back room, Beverly Wilkinson and John James, and at the console, Albert Bradley. Don't you move your dial. Alba is already in the house. He will take a few from here on. Until we connect on Thursday for another edition of Straight Talk, be good to yourselves and all whom you meet. And remember, whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you to the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Thursday.
The views and opinions expressed by the host or presenter and by participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its shareholder, or its affiliates. The opinions of the on-air guests or participants are based upon information they consider reliable, but neither ZBC nor its shareholder nor its affiliates warrant their completeness or accuracy, and they should not be relied upon as such.